really know what it means? Because oftentimes it's one of those words that we hear and it's really hard to understand what it means. Well, the pill was marketed as this wonderful liberation thing for women, right? You know, you don't have to be hostage to be at home with your children. Go on the pill. Second time really that Satan went around the man to get to the woman, Garden of Eden, 1960s. Be your own God, control your own fertility. Went right to the woman. Okay, so there's all these bad symptoms that women were experiencing. They were bloated, they were having breakthrough bleeding, they were miserable. And so in order to make sure they didn't lose these patients on this medication, the industry did a little adjusting, and they made it so that all the levels in the drugs were adjusted so the women weren't having these negative symptoms anymore. But guess what? When they adjusted the dosage, they made it real comfortable for the women, but what the women didn't realize is that these new levels that they put in the birth control in most cases allows them to ovulate, which means if they have relations during that time, a fertilized egg happens. Yes, the entire baby in its entirety, fertilization occurs, and when it goes down into the uterus, it cannot implant, and it comes out. Women are self-aborting their babies, possibly every month, without even knowing about it. Well, you say, how do you know that? Come on, quit making these accusations. Well, I love it when the other side gives us our answer. So scientists decided they were going to try to find out why some of these women were having such a difficult time using in vitro fertilization. Another practice that we've learned so much about to know that it is absolutely immoral and leads to aborted babies. So you know what they did? They tested the uterus lining, and they found out, and they told us, that in order for women to conceive a child and be able to sustain it in the lining of the uterus lining needs to be over 8 millimeters thick. Most of the birth control, oral contraceptives and hormonal birth control methods keep the uterus lining at 6 millimeters. That means instead of having this lining of the uterus that literally is waiting for the egg to come and stick, the analogy I use, and it kind of shows my age, and college kids are like, never heard of that. But when we were younger, we used to take wax paper to the park, and we would make the slides really slippery, you know, so we could slide right down that slide. And that's what it's like when a fully fertilized baby comes down to implant in a mother's uterus. The walls of the uterus are so slippery that that baby is self-aborted and masked as a heavy period. Women don't even know it. Young girls don't even know it. That's what's happening. Since Roe v. Wade, there's been 55 million surgical abortions. Pharmacists for Life tell us that chemical abortions or septic abortions, that word is used interchangeably, exceed 250 million babies. If our theme today, every baby is beautiful, born or unborn, is truly what we mean, every pro-life organization across this country should be talking about this. It's not a Catholic issue. It is the issue of life or death. I've had people say to me, besides that I'm crazy, I'm okay with that. I've had them say to me, that's not my charism. That's not my charism in the pro-life movement. Well, would it be okay to say, you know what, defending African-American babies from abortion, that's not my charism. I'm sorry, Hispanics, that's not my charism. No, we don't pick and choose what babies we defend. We don't pick and choose which babies we're willing to stand up for. And so unfortunately what's happened is people shy away from talking about the birth control pill as being abortifacient because it's like not politically correct, it's too complicated to see it. And so all these babies are forgotten, and they are to be counted among the abortions. I had a woman in Nashville when I spoke there about 6 weeks ago come up after my talk and say, I've been on the birth control pill for 28 years. This is what we're finding. Women now from the 60s have just stayed on it. Went off it maybe once for a baby or whatever, if they're lucky. Some of them have become infertile because of it. Catholic college in Ohio, I won't name which one, my niece told me that in the early hours of the morning, cell phones start going off. and the girls have on their cell phone, it's flashing, pill, pill, pill. So they remind you to take their pill before they get out of bed in the morning. This is a Catholic college. Only Satan could work his magic that he did across this country. When it comes to 75% of women saying that they've used a hormonal birth control method of some kind, and married couples, 98% say that they use some form of birth control at one time. Imagine the cleverness of Satan to work his way into 98% of the bedrooms across this country.